So here it is, the calculator itself, and I've got to say, playing with it, it's not bad. There are a couple of issues with the buttons when you're pressing. Sometimes they don't register, and you have to push them, but to be honest, it's only because I'm being quite light with my fingers, so yeah, it's really good. You can do your standard calculations, and it will do brackets, so it's going to do them first. You can do your to the power of 6, or you've just got your squared button, so you don't need to worry about like any extra notation, and your square root, you can't go wrong, and you've got your nice decimals. So a lot of good features here. You've got your sine, cosine, tan, logarithm, which is, I'm assuming, base 10. Just looking here, you can't change the base by the looks of it, but you can get cube root, which is quite nice. Let's do an obvious one, so we know it's going to be 3. Nice. You've got cubed. Well, it's going to be a big number, very big number. We've got the make it negative button. We've got the fraction button, which is that old school one. So if you want to write 2.5, 2.5, you're going to be writing 2 ABC1 ABC2, because this first number is the whole, the 2, and then this second bit is the fraction part, the 2.5. So that's a very strange one. If you times that by 2, you can test that should be 5, right? So interesting fraction button, the old school way. With the modern ones, you do have the structure there, which makes it a lot easier. Nice too, we've got factorial, NPR, NCR, I'm having to see, but we can adapt to, oh, there it is, it's an actual button. So NPR is there, but the NCR is there. Brilliant. So we've got the choose function for statistics. In fact, you've got the answer button, which is useful. You've got pi, you've got random number generators, and so this calculator so far seems as though it's going to take us to level 1 if we're really careful. I mean, level 2 depends. I think we might be struggling, but level 1, so far so good. Now, what can it help us do? We'll explore the statistics mode. So we've got computation, we've got the statistics, and then we've got the linear regression. So I'd like to look at the regression because I find that it's the most advanced thing on this calculator. And it has the linear, logarithmic, exponential, but look, also quadratic, which is, in my opinion, very unusual. So it's interesting, but we'll go to the linear because that's the most common one at level 1. If we have a scatter graph, we might want to find a number of statistics about the correlation. And this can be found, hopefully, in the data here. But if not, at least it does promise that we're going to find the equation. In other words, the regression. So, first things first, how do we input data? Well, if you look at the other calculators in its class, like the Casio versions, you literally got a table that you're going to fill out. It can't get easier. With this, it's a little bit more abstract. It doesn't mean it can't be done. So we will go for good practice. We'll shift and clear any data that might be there already. Press equals to execute, and let's go back to inputting data. So we're doing a linear regression data, so that's bivariate data that comes in pairs. If you just want to do x's, you enter the data and you press the M+ button. But since we want pairs, this becomes the x. We'll start with 1, make it easier, and then the second becomes the y. So I'm going to make it 1 and 150. Now we've got 1 pair. Let's do the next one. Let's do 2 and 151. And let's do now 3 and 152. Okay, so far we have 3 x values, and we'll double check that they're being entered. So we'll sum the x values, and we get 6. That's right, because we had 1, 2, and 3, and that adds up to 6. And in the same way, we can go across and add up the y values. and that should come to, was it 453? Yeah, there you go, 453. That makes sense. So cool. These are now working as these sums, and those are the options that we get. We also have the option for S variable there. So we could find number 1, which is the mean of the x's. Now what we're expecting is the mean of 1, 2, and 3, which is 2. Okay, good, it works. What else do we have in this one? So this is going to be the standard deviation of the sample, and we've got the y bar there, so the mean of the y values, and we know that's going to be 151, so we can test that one. Cool. All right, anyway, so those are the interesting things. What we want to do is perform a regression, and to do that we're going to go to Shift and S var again, and you probably saw this a bit earlier, these 3 values here. Do you recognize them from your studies? Well, the A and the B are the values of the A plus BX. Okay, so A would be the regression coefficient of A. That would be the point where it crosses the y-axis, the intercept. So let's take a look at that one. That's 149. So if you've got a linear equation, this is the y-intercept. Cool. And now we're going to go to S bar, find what B is. That's going to be the gradient, in a sense. It's going to be what's in front of the x. And it has a gradient of 1, and that's probably going to make a lot of sense because we went across 1 and went up 1. So it does have a gradient of 1. And the last thing, which is B, which is super awesome, is this value of R here, which is going to be the strength of the correlation. So it's the Pearson's correlation coefficient. So I've got to say, pretty impressive in terms of finding those if that's what's needed. Now at level 1, there is a course called a 1.1, and in 1.1 you might want to choose bivariate data to analyze. Now this is now moving to an exam next year, so it's not going to be open book. You're going to get given a booklet and you're going to be thinking on your feet. And the calculator, you know, it's going to be a useful tool. Now if it's going to be as difficult as this and there's a lot of data to put in, it might not be the best calculator. Although I love the fact that it's very simple, you might be dealing with something a little bit more complex. Why would you need to do it? To be honest, not really needed at level 1. This is more needed at level 2. However, if you're going to be studying at level 2, you probably want more than just the regression of a linear equation in your calculator. So it kind of doesn't fit anywhere, not nicely, except you'll definitely be okay in year 9. Well, let's go for the maximum. 9 and below, you'll definitely be okay year 10 and below. And what about year 11? Well, probably, because when you talk about the 1.1, you just want to be looking by inspection about the gradient and certain features. So really, you don't need anything accurate. So I'm going to say, so far, so good. One thing I'm really interested in, which has become a really important feature of the other calculators, the more Casio type calculators, are going to be the ability to solve a quadratic. And sad to say, this does not even do the solving of quadratics. There are advantages to other calculators. If you look at my calculator reviews on Casio, you'll see that there's a lot more functions in the modern ones with the menu system. So it's definitely something to be aware of, that maybe you've not got the best options in the exam, although you'll get by. It's just really going to take you to level 1, I'm afraid. And that might be all you need. Very good for year 9 and 10. And that's about its limit. We've, in this very short video, covered pretty much everything. So there we have it. A very basic calculator that will serve your needs up to level 1. If you don't want to be slightly disadvantaged, that is. But I always say, when you do it yourself in your head, you're going to be learning a lot more. And to be honest, I love this little thing. Cute, plastic, retro. What's not to love? Just a sucker for all this. It makes nice sounds. Thanks a lot for watching the video, and I'd like to say that upcoming we have a video on this Casio FX9860, which is a graphics calculator and an absolute beast. It's one that everybody in New Zealand is going to want if they're studying level 2 or beyond in any kind of serious capacity. I hope to see you there.